Texas Rangers vs. Comanche Warriors. Plum Creek, 1840. Dawn broke over San Antonio as a lone teenage girl stumbled through its dusty streets, her nose mutilated, her face bearing the scars of brutal captivity. Matilda Lockhart's appearance told a story far different from the peace negotiations about to unfold. Behind her, proud Comanche chiefs approached the council house, their decorated war bonnets swaying with each deliberate step, while their people gathered in the shadow of the old Alamo walls. Welcome to Native Legends and History Stories. Join us as we uncover the dramatic events that ignited the bloodiest chapter of the Texas frontier. Subscribe now for deep dives into the true tales that shaped American history. The year was 1840, and the Texas frontier trembled under the hoofbeats of the most feared warriors on the plains. Comanche raiders swept down from the north like storm winds, their very name sending chills through settler communities. But now something had changed. The fierce lords of the prairie had come to talk peace. The winds of change had blown through Texas politics, where Sam Houston had woven careful threads of diplomacy with both native tribes and Mexicans. His successor Mirabeau B. Lamar gripped the reins of power with iron determination. The new president's words echoed through government halls. Texas would rid itself of all Indian presence, by negotiation or by force. In early 1840, an unexpected message reached San Antonio. Comanche leaders sought peace talks with the Texas government. The small frontier town buzzed with anticipation and suspicion. Texas officials laid down their terms. Negotiations would begin only when all white captives were returned. The Comanches agreed. As March painted the hills with blue bonnets, they returned to San Antonio. 65 members of the tribe, men, women, and children, filed into town. Among them strode 12 chiefs, their bearing proud despite coming to the negotiating table. But something was wrong. Where dozens of captives should have been, only young Matilda Lockhart stepped forward. Texas militia units watched from the shadows, fingers resting near triggers. The Republic had dispatched them quietly, anticipating treachery. Inside the old courthouse they called the council house, the air grew thick with tension as Texan officials confronted the chiefs about the missing captives. "This is the only one we have," the chiefs declared, their faces impassive. But Matilda's trembling voice cut through their words like a knife, telling of other prisoners still held in Comanche camps. The Texas negotiators' expressions hardened as they realized the chiefs had broken their word. Steel entered their voices as they delivered their ultimatum. The chiefs would be held hostage until every last white captive was returned. In that moment, the delicate balance between peace and war teetered on a knife's edge. No one could have predicted the bloodshed about to explode within these very walls, or the months of terror that would follow. The Comanche chiefs responded to the hostage threat with immediate action. They pulled weapons from beneath their robes, knives and tomahawks they had managed to conceal, despite the guards' searches. The first chief lunged at the nearest Texas official, while others rushed toward the doors. Texas soldiers stationed around the room raised their rifles and opened fire. The council house erupted into close-quarters combat. Comanche warriors fought with desperate ferocity, trying to break through the soldiers' lines to reach the exits. Gunfire echoed through the building as the Texans fired at point-blank range. Tables overturned as men grappled and fought one by one. The chiefs fell within minutes. All 12 lay motionless on the courthouse floor. The sounds of battle carried clearly to Alamo Plaza, where 53 Comanche men, women, and children waited. The warriors immediately recognized the gunfire and screams coming from the council house. They turned on the townspeople, who had gathered to watch the peace proceedings, unleashing arrows into the crowd as civilians scrambled for cover. Fighting spread through San Antonio's streets. Comanche warriors charged on foot through the plaza, firing arrows and wielding war clubs. Texas militiamen rushed to engage them, firing muskets from doorways and windows. Civilians caught in the open ran for shelter as bullets and arrows flew. Market stalls provided little cover as the battle raged through the town center. The Texas soldiers' superior firearms and numbers gradually took their toll. Comanche warriors fell one after another, while others were surrounded and captured. Women and children from the tribe tried to flee, but found themselves trapped by the ring of militia. The final count was devastating. Of the 65 Comanche who had come for peace talks, 64 were either dead or in chains. The Texas forces suffered 7 dead and 8 wounded in the fighting. As summer settled over Texas, the full implications of the Council House fight became clear. The deaths of 12 respected chiefs would not go unanswered. The Texans knew retaliation was coming and strengthened their defenses throughout the frontier. Scouts reported increased Comanche activity in the hill country as warriors gathered for revenge. By August 1840, the Comanche had assembled their largest war party in years. They began moving south from the hill country, targeting settlements along 150-mile stretch reaching to the Gulf Coast. The raiders moved with practiced stealth through the wilderness, even in settled areas like Lockhart County. Only 2 frontier families, Isham Good and John A. Neal, had established homesteads. The vast empty territory allowed the Comanche to travel undetected. The war party circled east round the town of Gonzales, deliberately avoiding detection. As they approached Victoria, they struck at dawn hundreds of warriors, sweeping into the unprepared town from the north. Townspeople had no warning before mounted raiders filled the streets. Families grabbed what they could and ran toward the town center, where brick buildings offered better protection than wooden homes. The Comanche systematically attacked Victoria's defenses. They set fire to outlying buildings, creating chaos and confusion. Warriors broke into homes and businesses, killing those who resisted and taking anything of value. On the outskirts of town, they discovered a prize: thousands of horses and mules brought by Mexican traders for sale to the Texans. The raiders quickly rounded up these animals, adding them to their own herd. As evening approached, the Comanche withdrew to Spring Creek to make camp. They had achieved their initial objectives, demonstrating their power, gathering plunder, and spreading terror through the settlement. But they weren't finished. The next morning brought a second attack on Victoria. This time, however, the town had managed to raise some alarm. Under cover of darkness, several men had slipped through the Comanche lines. These runners spread news of the attack to other settlements, warning them of the massive raid underway. Word began moving quickly through central Texas. The Comanche had launched their revenge, and Victoria was only the beginning. After 2 days of raiding Victoria, the Comanche warriors turned their horses toward the Gulf of Mexico. Their next target lay along the Texas coast, the bustling port town of Linnville on Lavaca Bay. The settlement of 300 souls had no walls, no militia, only wooden docks stretching into the shallow waters, and warehouses full of traded goods. The raiders struck Linnville without warning. Townspeople looked up to see hundreds of mounted warriors pouring down the coastal plain toward their undefended homes. Men shouted warnings as women and children ran toward the bay. With warriors blocking escape inland, the civilians had only one option. They waded into the warm waters of Lavaca Bay, desperately swimming toward fishing boats anchored offshore. Not everyone made it to the boats. Warriors rode through the streets, cutting down those too slow to reach the water. They broke into homes and businesses, taking anything of value. The warehouses along the docks proved especially rich, filled with goods waiting for transport. The raiders methodically emptied each building, loading trade goods onto their growing herd of captured horses and mules from Victoria. As the sunset smoke rose from dozens of fires, the Comanche put torch to every structure in Linnville, ensuring nothing remained standing. The surviving townspeople could only watch from their boats as flames consumed their homes and livelihoods. By morning, only ashes remained of the port town. With their horses and mules laden with plunder from both Victoria and Linnville, the Comanche war party began their long journey back to their territories in the hill country. They moved more slowly now, weighed down by their stolen goods and expanded herd. This gave the Texans their opportunity. Rangers and militia leaders realized they had to intercept the raiders before they reached Comancheria, the vast, uncharted territory controlled by the Comanche tribes. Once the war party crossed into those familiar hunting grounds, pursuit would be impossible. The Texans needed to choose their battleground carefully. They found their position at Isham Good's cabin, strategically located halfway between Austin and Gonzales on the newly built road connecting the two settlements. Good had only established his homestead the previous year in mid-1839, building his cabin a mile from Plum Creek. The location offered several advantages. It lay directly in the raiders' likely path, provided good visibility across the open country, and was accessible to volunteers from surrounding settlements. Messengers rode hard for every town within reach: Gonzales, Bastrop, La Grange, Austin, Seguin, and San Antonio. Their message was urgent. All able-bodied men were needed to stop the Comanche war party from escaping with their plunder. The settlers had a rare opportunity to strike back at the raiders who had terrorized their frontier. The response was swift. Armed men began arriving at Good's cabin on August 11, coming in small groups throughout the day. They brought their own weapons and horses, determined to join the volunteer force. Scouts reported the Comanche were moving north, slowed by their captured herds and stolen goods. By nightfall of August 11th, 100 volunteers had assembled at the cabin, with more expected to arrive through the night. The men made camp along the road, checking weapons and sharing intelligence about the raiders' movements. They knew the coming battle would be decisive. Either they would stop the Comanche here, or the raiders would escape into their territories, with their plunder proving they could strike anywhere along the Texas coast with impunity. As night fell, tension filled the air. Tomorrow would bring the largest confrontation between settlers and Comanche warriors since the Council House fight. The 100 Texas volunteers gathered at Good's cabin on August 12th, checking their weapons and ammunition. One final time, their scouts had confirmed the Comanche war party's approach. 600 strong, including warriors, women and children, along with their Kiowa allies. The raiders moved slower now, their horses burdened with plunder from Victoria and Linnville. The Texas force faced a daunting tactical challenge. Their 100 rifles would be severely outnumbered by the approaching raiders. The Comanche warriors were master horsemen, capable of firing arrows with deadly accuracy, even at full gallop. The volunteers knew they needed every advantage the terrain could offer. Captain Thomas Moore led his men toward Plum Creek, a mile west of Good's cabin. The creek's winding course and thick vegetation offered natural cover for an ambush. Moore positioned scouts at regular intervals along the creek bank, watching for the first signs of the war party's approach. Within hours, the scouts returned with precise intelligence. The Comanche were 2 miles downstream, moving steadily northward with their captured herds. The volunteers spread out through the brush and trees along the creek line. They concealed their horses in deep thickets, ensuring no nervous whinnying would betray their position. Experienced frontiersmen chose elevated positions that offered clear fields of fire while remaining hidden from the creek bed below. The less experienced men took positions behind natural barriers, fallen logs, and large rocks that could provide protection from Comanche arrows. A rider approached from the east at full gallop, bringing crucial news. General Edward Burleson was moving quickly from Bastrop, 25 miles away, with 100 additional volunteers. This reinforcement would dramatically change the battle's dynamics, doubling the Texas fighting force. More significantly, Burleson brought 13 Tonquah warriors, renowned for their tracking and fighting skills. The Tonquah's presence added another layer to the coming confrontation. Their bitter history with the Comanche stretched back generations. The Comanche's expansion from the northern plains had violently displaced many tribes, including the Tonquah, from their traditional hunting grounds. The Tonquah had never forgotten this loss. They had become valued allies to the Texas forces, serving as scouts and warriors in every major campaign against their old enemies. Their knowledge of Comanche tactics and their skill at reading the landscape made them invaluable in planning ambushes and tracking war parties. Captain Moore faced a critical decision. The Comanche were approaching faster than expected, their advanced scouts likely already probing the creek area. Yet Burleson's reinforcements were also close. pushing hard to reach the battlefield. The captain sent runners south to track the raiders' exact position and east to urge Burleson forward. The situation grew more tense when a scout reported the Comanche vanguard was already visible. Burleson's force was tantalizingly close, just a few miles away, but the battle couldn't wait. The 100 volunteers along Plum Creek prepared to engage the full war party alone if necessary. Burleson's mounted force pushed their horses harder upon hearing the news, maintaining a steady trot despite the August heat. Behind them, the 13 Tonkawa warriors demonstrated extraordinary stamina. They had left Bastrop without horses, running alongside the mounted Texans for nearly 25 miles. Even as Burleson's men spurred their horses to a faster pace in the final miles, the Tonkawa warriors kept up their determination, fueled by the chance to strike at their traditional enemies. The volunteers concealed along Plum Creek could now spot dust clouds rising above the tree line. To the south, the 600 Comanche and their allies were approaching, their captured horses and mules moving slowly under the weight of plundered goods from the coastal raids. Time was running critically short. Burleson's reinforcements needed to arrive before the raiders began crossing the creek or moors. 100 men would have to face the massive war party alone. The 13 Tonkawa warriors completed their remarkable 25-mile journey on foot, arriving at Plum Creek alongside Burleson's mounted force. Their arrival transformed the tactical situation. The Texas forces now numbered to 100 men, a force strong enough to challenge the Comanche raiders directly, however. Timing proved critical. The Comanche war party had already passed the initial ambush positions while Burleson's men were still approaching. The Texas volunteers emerged from their hiding spots along Plum Creek, forming into organized units. As Burleson's reinforcements arrived, the Comanche warriors, their horses laden with plunder, suddenly found themselves caught between two forces. The battle began as a running fight across the prairie. Texas cavalry pursued the Comanche war party, engaging their rear guard in sharp skirmishes. The raiders tried to protect their captured herds while moving northwest toward the hill country. For 5 miles the chase continued, neither side fully committing to a decisive engagement. The Texas forces maintained steady pressure, forcing the Comanche to defend their plunder while trying to reach familiar territory. The terrain gradually changed as the fighting moved toward Kelly Springs, approximately 3 miles west of present-day Lockhart. Here the Comanche warriors finally took their stand. They formed defensive positions, protecting their supplies and families while preparing to engage the Texas forces. The main battle lasted 45 intense minutes. The Texas volunteers dismounted and formed a defensive square, a formation that allowed them to direct concentrated fire in any direction. The Comanche responded with their traditional cavalry tactics, circling the square and launching mounted attacks from multiple directions. One Comanche chief displayed extraordinary bravery that caught the Texans' attention. He repeatedly charged close to their lines, firing arrows with deadly accuracy before wheeling away. The Texas riflemen targeted him specifically, but their shots seemed to have no effect. After several passes, they noticed something unusual. A metal plate hung from the chief's neck, acting as an improvised shield. The chief's tactical approach was bold but consistent. He would charge within arrow range, loose his shots, then quick,